How's it going, everybody? It's Jay Gibson, the host of the Paws podcast. FIU has lost once again for the fourth straight time by a score of 10-7. It was I'm not going to say unbearable to watch in the first half because it was, despite being 0-0, it was close. The second half saw some good and some bad. The good coming from FIU's defense, who limited Sam Houston to 10 points. I think that's where I'll start just to get the positives going. FIU's defense was really good. They, like I said, limited Sam Houston to just 10 points, which is great. Granted, obviously, that's against a backup quarterback. Just give me a second here as I'm making sure that everything is set up on all of our social platforms. I think we're going on Instagram. Yeah. So, okay. Let me make sure I have everything going on X. I know everything's going on YouTube, so that's nothing to worry about. Okay, so back to the post game show. Sam Houston has a really good rushing game. It's something that they've sort of prided themselves on from the get-go, and they were held to just 131, I believe 131 total rushing yards, which I think is a very solid number to keep them down to. Their leading rusher was their quarterback, Bauer, who had 72 yards. Eventually, they broke through with a rushing touchdown by McKinney, which actually opened up the scoring. FIU answered back. Now, there's probably going to be a question I know some of you will want to ask and will want answers for. As I'm sure most of you who watched the game know, Chaden Peary stepped in for Kewan Jenkins with around a minute and change to go in the second quarter and play the entirety of the second half. We talked with head coach Mike McIntyre post game. It was not injury related. It was because that FIU. It's because the coach thought that Jenkins did not have a good start to the game, and granted, he was 1 for 9, 16 yards, and that interception on the second play of the game. So the coaches wanted to get a new quarterback in there to sort of refresh things up. And it was Amari Jones. Obviously, Amari Jones was injured. He was not good to go today, so they went to Peary. So it wasn't because Jenkins was too injured. I think the commentators said it was a shoulder, but for what Mike McIntyre told us after the game, Jenkins is fine. He just did not have a great game today, so they went to Peary. And all things considered, Peary was not bad. Not 7 for 12, 58 yards, and he threw that one touchdown to Eric Rivers for FIU's only score of the game, which was a great play. It was a game changer. Unfortunately, that was pretty much the only time they went to a play similar to that nature where they went down the field and relied on one of their best receivers, maybe their best receiver, in Eric Rivers. So take it with a grain of salt. By the way, going live on our X account right now is the full press conference with Mike McIntyre. So if you want to read that, if you want to listen to that, you can. I believe it's uploaded. If it's not uploaded, it's going to be uploaded in like a few minutes. So anyway, if you want to check that out, it's pretty long. It's like 11 to 12 minutes, but there's some good stuff there. So I thought Peary played okay. I wish they allowed Peary to air the ball out more, though, similar to what we saw with that touchdown pass to Eric Rivers. They mainly relied on the running game, which I wouldn't be mad with if the running game broke through. Like they were actually able to establish the run long term, which they were not able to do tonight. I thought that maybe Lexington Joseph could break the 100-yard mark for FIU running backs tonight, and that didn't happen. He had next to no yards. Shamari Lawrence ended up being the leading rusher with 44, and it is nice to see Lawrence utilized again in the playbook, but still, again, another disappointing outcome for the running game. And I know Sam Houston's defense is very good, and they came into this game, I think, pretty healthy as well. So there's that. But yeah, the running game, again, it's become a standard to this point to see them struggle, and it sucks because if you've been following us then you know that we know that there's a lot of talent in that group that's just not being displayed properly so far this season. So, yeah, overall, horrible night for FIU's offense. I mean, you only put up 7 points. There's just no getting around that. And we joked that maybe it could come down to overtime, and if FIU were to score on that final drive, maybe it would have. However, I do want to highlight the 2 holding penalties that were called on that final drive of the game. I haven't really had the time to look back and really dissect that, but Mike McIntyre was mad, the fans were mad, and overall it feels like it was not an appropriate penalty for the situation. The one on 3rd down negated a catch that would have gotten the 1st down, and obviously the holding on 4th down was declined because it was a broken up pass anyway. So, regardless, a 10-7 loss hurts for FIU because once again it just goes to the list of very winnable games for this squad. They had a very winnable game against UTEP. They had a very winnable game against Liberty, a winnable game against Monmouth. And God damn it, it just feels like this team is sometimes snake bit so much. They just don't. It just doesn't seem like they have that clutch gene to come down and win games in the wire. Something always seems to go wrong with this team, and it just sucks to watch because you see the talent that this team has on offense, and it doesn't work. So. Apologies for any background noise you might hear, but I do have the Blue Yeti plugged in, so it should be okay. But yeah, it just sucks to say that this team has been in so many close games, most of them with them having the ball on offense with minutes to go, with the chances to either win or tie games, and they just can't do it. It just sucks because it's the usual at this point for this FIU squad, and that's why they have a 2-6 record. You know what? Congratulations, FIU. At least from here on out, it's very clear what has to happen for this team to become bowl eligible. You have to win out. You cannot lose another game this season if you want to make it to a bowl game. All right? It sucks that it had to get to this point because of those 1-score losses. But that's the way the situation is, and if you want to get to a bowl game for the first time since 2019, or even if you want to get to the 4-8 win mark, the odds of both of those things happening at this point are very, very, very low, and it sucks. It really sucks that we had aspirations, super high aspirations, and everything has gone to hell. And it's unrealistic, in my opinion, to think that FIU can win out. You have what I would consider a pretty winnable matchup against New Mexico State at home. The Jacksonville State game on the road is where things start to go to hell because Jacksonville State's running game can absolutely torch FIU's defense based on what we've seen so far from both sides of the ball. I have no confidence in FIU on the road against Jacksonville State. Again, I'm hoping and praying that something can happen, but if Jacksonville State enters that game fully healthy, I doubt FIU will stand a chance in that game. Then you take on Kennesaw on the road. Kennesaw is currently winless, and you better beat them. Otherwise, we're going to have a similar situation to that UTEP game where they handed UTEP their first win of the season, but it's even elevated for if they lose to Kennesaw State because this is Kennesaw's first year in FBS, and they have not looked good in any single game they've played so far this season. So if you were to lose on the road against Kennesaw, it would be the ultimate lowest of lows in years, which is saying something because we just lost to an FCS team earlier this season. Then you host Middle Tennessee, and it can go either way. So all of this to say that FIU needs to win out to get to that 6-6 win mark, which is good to get into a bowl game. And I don't see it happening. Not with this offense that FIU has right now. It was bad against UTEP. It looked okay against Liberty, but it looked bad against UTEP, and it looked even worse today against Sam Houston. And again, I know Sam Houston has a great defense, but it's just unacceptable, man. It really just sucks to see because, again, Kevin and I thought FIU would go bowling, and we had hype. We had some of the most hype for a football season we have had in years, and it's gone to hell. It went to hell almost immediately with the loss to FAU, which stung, and then the loss to Monmouth, which ultimately has set the tone for the remainder of the season for the team. And I know I'm sounding super negative right now, and I apologize, but it just sucks because, again, we had very high aspirations. I think most of you watching had pretty high aspirations for this season for the Panthers, and it just hasn't gone the way we wish it could. Regardless, we're going to be here. We're going to be covering this season up to the very end. Maybe in a perfect world, FIU does win out and we get to go to a bowl game, which would be awesome, but I just don't see it happening, and it sucks. But regardless, to look at some other numbers before we close up shop here, Shaden Peary finishes 7 for 12, 58 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Eric Rivers, 3 catches, 42 yards, and the touchdown. Is it fair to say Rivers is the true QB1 of this team? Maybe, just maybe. Shamari Lawrence and Lexington Joseph have 44 and 42 yards respectively. It's nice to see that duo play well. I just need to see the duo play better. And that also falls to the offensive line as well for creating holes for the runners, which obviously but the offensive line did pretty well in protecting Peary today. I think he was sacked once, but for most of the time he was able to get the ball out before pressure got to him. And then defensively, Travion Barnes, man, what a stud Travion Barnes is. 14 total tackles, 5 solos, 1.5 tackles for a loss, and and 1 QB hit. Travion Barnes continues to be just an absolute monster for this defense, and if it's not obvious he's the best player on the team, I don't know what is. He's just such an amazing player. He deserves to be first team All Conference USA, and I'm hopeful that he stays with FIU next season. But you never know with the transfer portal, so we'll see how that goes. Dayton Montiel had a punt blocked today, but aside from that punt being blocked, he punted 3 more balls that all went inside the 20, including one, I believe, in the second quarter that was spotted at like the 2 or 3. So Dayton Montiel was on a tear today. So massive respect to him. And by the way, I will admit the score probably should be 16-7 because Sam Houston missed 2 field goals today, one of which in hilarious fashion being the doink, and the other one just faded. I don't remember if it faded left or right, but it just faded. So maybe it should have been 16-7 as the final. But regardless, again another bad showing on Vice night. The uniforms looked amazing. The field looked amazing. There was a lot of hype. I'd say a pretty decent turnout. Obviously, the weather messed things up a little, along with the fact that it's a Tuesday night and it's a school night, I guess. But it is what it is. Your final score is Sam Houston 10, FIU 7. The Panthers will be taking on New Mexico State next week on Tuesday, October the 29th at 7 p.m. here at Pitbull Stadium. I believe that's Sunblazer night, so they're going to be rocking the Sunblazer decals on the helmet, which is always kind of fun to see. And we'll just go from there. So I'll end it here. Thank you guys for the coverage today. I got to meet College Football Campus Tours, Mike from that account, which is a super awesome account. It's always fun seeing where he's going to go, and I finally got to meet him, and we spoke for a bit. He's such a super cool dude. So, Mike, if you're watching this, shout out to you and the content you put out, and it was nice to finally meet you. Also got to see Billy Gill, who I believe was on Radio Detail, and just a lot of vibes today. And unfortunately, the football team underperformed again. So, also during the halftime show, we announced who our next guest of the show would be. It's going to be Owen Puck, FIU's pitcher. He's the brother of AJ Puck, who currently plays for the Arizona Diamondbacks. He, of course, had to go through Tommy John surgery a couple of seasons ago, and obviously he's expected to have a great season upcoming for the Panthers. So before we go, let me go ahead and play that trailer one more time, just because I made it, so I want to showcase it as much as I can. So let's watch the trailer really quick for episode 72.
And then now, finally, what's just the next step for you?
Just come out here, just continue to put work in, and just give my chance, my team the best possible chance to win.
What'd you think? That was pretty cool. But no, fun fact, that episode was actually recorded entirely with Puck yesterday, so it's done. It's ready to be uploaded on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Again, it's going to be on our X, Instagram, and YouTube platforms, and it'll be added to our Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Believe networks the day after. And we already have our guest lined up for next week as well for episode 73. I think Kevin teased the sport it was on the end of the episode with Owen Puck. So now I'm having an internal debate. Should I reveal the sport it is right now? Fun. I'm conflicted. Do I reveal the sport, or do I save it, or do I let Kevin tease it on Thursday night at the end of the Owen Puck swim and dive? It's a member of Swim and Dive, who obviously are trying to have another amazing season. So stay tuned for that next week. Should be super fun. But again, tough loss for FIU. They lose 10-7 to Sam Houston. So yeah, there's not much left to say. Have a great rest of the night, and be back here next week for FIU versus New Mexico State. Watch the podcast on Thursday night. Paws up.